Web3 is rewriting the rules. Technology, finance, freedom. So we're sitting down with some of the builders in the space to get their take on where things are heading.
We can't just take over the world and disrupt everything and say this is how it's going to be done now. We have to work hand in hand with traditional finance.
But since the genie was out of the bottle, governments had to find a framework that they can work with Bitcoin.
Cryptos are really more retail driven, we gotta face it.
The most important thing is to educate ourselves, making us comfortable with the technology.
The way that we interact with crypto is being rewritten in real time. And this is a Now Effect by ChangeNOW. Feel the power of now. Hey everybody, what's going on? My name is Pauline Shangett, Chief Strategy Officer of ChangeNOW, and welcome to the cycle of videos about cybersecurity, because we're in the year of our Lord 2026, and the amount of people hunting for money is growing every year, and the ways that these people are trying to get your money are getting more and more sophisticated. That's why we have our dear guest here, Albert Quehenberger, CEO and Head of Investigations at a cybersecurity firm called AQ Forensics. Thank you so much for joining me, Albert.
Thank you for the invitation.
So, Albert, I'm pretty sure you've been keeping quite a close eye on the crypto space and the more modern methods of money extraction from people. So, can you name a few more widespread types of scams which are prevalent these days?
Yeah, indeed, working every day on the edge of between crypto scams and the Web3 bubble. And I think that the scams never changed really, because a Ponzi scheme was always a Ponzi scheme, but the way how to transfer funds or money has changed and evolved by using cryptocurrencies. But I think the most common scams are phishing scams, romance scams, Ponzi schemes, rug pulls, exploits, and not hacks, as many people think.
Yeah, I mean, right now, cybersecurity is getting better. So a lot of projects are getting a little better at protecting themselves against scams. I mean, against hacks in more way. But do you think, how do cybersecurity criminals, cyber criminals, I guess we should call them, how are they managing to kind of circumvent the necessity to hack something to extract money?
Mm-hmm. I would say in most of the cases they do not hack the technology, because the technology is working as designed. They are in most of the cases trying to hack the humans behind wallets and cryptocurrencies. So they are always playing with our feelings like greed, love, fear, and stuff like that.
You've named quite an extensive list of the most popular scams. Can you explain the logic between a few of them? Because I do know, like phishing, it makes quite a lot of sense how it works, because basically you confuse people by running a very similar version of the website that you're trying to make, that people want to interact with. So that's quite easy. But what about pig butchering scams, for example?
Mm-hmm. Big butchering scams, the crypto or cyber criminals are always playing with our emotions, and the most powerful emotion related to this kind of scams is greed, I think, because they are always promising a lot of wins, and they are trying to manipulate their victims. It starts quite easy with some online messages, for example, and then they try to bring the victims on some platforms, and they convince them to invest into this scam project by promising them rendezvous about 1 to 3 person per day, for example. And in most of the cases, it's the scam is starting with small amounts of funds, for example, $250. And the victims, they are not stupid. They exactly know something is a little bit too risky maybe, and so we have to start with a small amount of funds. So they are investing this $250 US, for example. They set a trade on the fake trading platform, and oh wonder, the trade was filled and it was successful, and they made $1,000, for example, out of the 250. And now they are trying to make a withdrawal from the platform, and this is also working, but only one or two times or a few times. And now they are convinced that everything is proper and everything is going very well with them. And so now at this point, they are going to invest thousands and hundreds of thousands US dollar into these platforms. And when they are trying to withdraw the wins they made, then always technical problems are happening. They have to pay fees, for example, to withdraw the funds. And this is one of the biggest red flags. If you have to pay separated fees to withdraw your wins or some funds from a platform, that's always a huge red flag. And this is in most of the cases the time when the victims noticed that they fell into a scam.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, when I am talking to somebody who wants me to pay for something and the amount is usually smaller, I keep thinking like, well, if they're trying to get me to pay like $40 for a SIM card, I mean, why would they bother to have all of this like long conversation with me if all they're going to scam me out of is just $40? Like, why bother for such a small amount? But at the same time, there is a certain possibility of like scammers doing like further and further and further extraction from me, like asking for more money and more money and more money. And as a rule, like you've said, the victim only realizes that they've been scammed only after they have been swindled out of like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
Which is very dangerous, and you should always be on the lookout for that. And can you talk a little bit more about any other very like widespread, we've talked about phishing, we've talked about pig butchering. What would you call like the third most popular way to scam people out of their funds?
Yeah, I would say Roman scams. They are quite annoying because in this type of scams, the criminals are not only trying to steal your funds, they are also playing with your emotions and feelings. And this is really worse because they left behind not only betrayed victims, but also victims were with a broken heart, for example.
Oh yeah. I've read quite a bit. Roman scams seem to be like a subset of pig butchering scams. And I was quite surprised to like know that there is an entire industry in Myanmar and Cambodia and some parts of Thailand, that there are like whole industrial zones or like massive scam centers that function, and this industry generates quite a lot of money. And I've even heard about some people, like European people, for example, being kidnapped and forced to work within these scams because, unfortunately, still we live in quite a racist society. And, for example, for a white person, it would be easier to trust a white person who's trying to steal their money. And do you know what types of measures are currently being taken to kind of combat that, if any?
Yeah, the governmental organizations are trying to fight against these scam compounds in Cambodia, for example. I think they freed 100,000 people, and I think this number gives us a little bit an kind of an insight how huge this industry really is. And I think they are taking, or we are talking from billions they are stealing annually from people all around the world.
Let's talk about rug pulls now, because again, obviously we're going to talk about ways to kind of prevent yourself from getting scammed, but right now I'm more interested in actually listing all of the ways that people should be on the lookout for. And I think in terms of all of these scams where that we've just talked about, where the attacker is talking to the victim personally, a rug pull is a more mass scale way to scam people. So can you talk a little bit about what you know about rug pulls and how they usually work?
Absolutely, they're a little bit more evolved than other scams, I would say, because there is always a project team, a whole team behind this kind of scams. You have these front runners, these influencers who are shilling all the projects and trying to convince people investing into this kind of projects, for example, I would say. And at some point, they pull out
the rug.
the rug.
This is the metaphorical rug, yes.
And then they're leaving behind thousands of scammed investors, for example. And you can check it upfront before investing in such kind of rug pulls or shady projects by checking the amount of the circulating supply of tokens is controlled by how many wallets. If, for example, 70% of all the circulating supply is controlled by only 3 or 4 wallets, this is also a red flag how to identify a rug pull. Or by checking wallet addresses or smart contracts before you want to interact with them. An easy way is, for example, using EtherScan.
That's actually pretty good advice because there have been, especially in the era when meme coins were quite popular, there were rug pull attacks left and right because I think the pump and dump and like rug pull aspect was basically integral to the meme coin space because everybody was expected to like not to hold anything long term. They would just like anybody who bought in early was simply lucky. And then when/if the team did the rug pull, you just had to be on time to kind of like pull your funds out early so that you are not left without the money. Can you talk a little bit about the biggest crypto scams as of late, as of like 2025 and 2026?
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. I think the beginning of 2025, was very busy because one of the most well-known crypto exchanges globally was hacked, Bybit. Within one incident, they lost approximately 1.5 billion US dollars in form of different cryptocurrencies, which is a bunch of cryptocurrencies. So, and all the private intelligence agencies and the private investigators have been contacted to support and help in recovering the stolen funds.
And if we were talking about like individual types of scams, what's the biggest you've seen lately?
The biggest individual scam was the theft case of 2,000 bitcoins and 300 ETH. It was a social engineering attack. A client of us was at the ETH in Denver in 2024, I think. And he met a couple of guys. And they became friends and they meet each other online a couple of times and talked about different projects in the Web3 space. And at one day, they also had an appointment to meet each other in Zoom. And this time there was a small difference because the Zoom link routed our client to another server. And this led to an incident because he downloaded some spyware. And by downloading the spyware, they are sniffing around in his IT systems because he was most of the time online. So he never cut the connection to the internet. And so the criminals had the time to investigate, to explore all his files. And so it came that they identified his Bitcoin wallets and Ease wallets. Yeah, long story short, they transferred 2,000 Bitcoins away from this wallet and 300 E's.
That is insane. That is like multi-generational wealth kind of money.
Yeah.
And did the victim ever manage to recover any of the funds?
Yes, the investigations are still going on. I was the poor guy who has to tell him that he lost most of his funds, but we started immediately the investigations and we involved the FBI, the Departments of Justice, and a lot of other law enforcement agencies. And we managed to recover $120,000 a couple of months after this incident. That sounds not very much, but we know exactly where the difference, 1,650 Bitcoins are lying at the moment, and we are watching these wallets.
And another way of scamming is actually one of the more interesting to me as somebody who does business development work in the space, among other things. It is like a subset of phishing schemes, which is kind of like a mix between your run-of-the-mill, like regular phishing and social engineering attacks. Because right now, what has been going on to quite a lot of people in the space, and I do know that at least like hundreds of millions of dollars have been stolen from those people with their wallets like entirely and completely drained, is when you're approached by somebody who wants to either like invite you to a job or wants to like do a partnership with you or just wants to in the more simplistic ways explore synergies. Or another part which I almost fell victim to is like people trying to get you to do an interview. And there have been quite different versions where, for example, somebody sends you like a malicious Zoom link where you just like install a script that installs malware that later on acts as a drainer for a wallet. The same thing has happened to people on Google Meet. And I think Microsoft Teams as well. So these are like script injectors. But a story that happened to me, maybe will help me shed a little bit more light on what actually happened. Because after it happened, I did a very thorough check of my system. Nothing was there, nothing was stolen, nothing was installed. But I was approached by somebody from Cointelegraph, and they said they wanted to do like a podcast interview with me. It was from the official X account of Cointelegraph. So everything looked very legitimate. I didn't really have any reason to not trust that media outlet. So when the day of the interview came, they invited me to a meeting on Teams, and I did have the Teams app, and it was just like, it didn't really ask me to install any type of script or any type of additional software. And we actually had a pretty good conversation. It seems they had done the research, which also kind of like caught me off guard. And then they asked me to share my screen. And they were talking to me the entire time so that I wouldn't like notice anything weird happening, or I would be way too distracted by talking to not see anything. And they tried to get me to allow remote access to my laptop.
Okay.
Yes. But since I'm like paranoid, I thought it was quite fishy, so I didn't do that. But then they, and I've learned that this is something that they quite commonly do,
Yeah.
is they tried to get me away from my laptop with the screen still shared. So they asked me to go grab a piece of merch, I think, to like post for the thumbnail or something. And I did end up going and was sitting in front of like a white wall, and I didn't have any windows open on my laptop aside from the Teams one. So by the time I got back, we wrapped it up, and then it was over. And the guy, like a few days later, the guy who was supposed to take my interview, he disappeared. And then I learned that this type of team scam is quite well spread.
Yeah.
So have you
Absolutely.
heard anything about it?
Yeah. What you described is a combination between hacking and social engineering, which is very common for most of the crypto or the cybercrime cases we are investigating on. This type of scam is most likely for Lazarus or for the North Korean cyber army.
Well, I guess I got lucky because again, I am quite computer savvy and I do work off a Mac, which kind of, I guess, both of these factors kind of played into that role because I don't know, this might have been like wishful thinking or something, but everything on my laptop is like fingerprint protected.
Yeah.
All of the passwords and all of the like sensitive materials and messengers. I like to think that, again, I got very lucky, and obviously I will not be repeating any of that, again, yeah. And now that we've talked about the types of crypto scams which are prevalent in the crypto space, have been prevalent lately, can you talk a little bit about how we can avoid those scams and like what the type of security measures we can take to not fall victim to those?
I think the most important thing is to educate ourselves. Making us comfortable with the technology, because in most of the cases, I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, the technology is working like it's designed, so very properly and without a lot of vulnerabilities. But if we want to interact as standard users with cryptocurrencies and wallets and all the services online, first of all, we should learn how to use wallets and in a secure way, and how to identify scammers. Like we talked about rug pulls and all the shield meme coin projects, for example. And then we should learn how to use our IT systems in a secure way. How to set two-factor authentication, for example, how to set strong passwords, for example, which is also very important. I would say education is key and documentation as well, because if now we have 2026 and in 2027, DAC 8 will set in place globally, and so if you don't have a proper documentation, you will get another problems, I think, from the governmental side.
Thank you so much to Albert for talking about most common crypto scams with me. And thank you, the listener, the viewer, so much for watching this video. And hopefully from now on, your money will be a little bit more secure from now on. This has been your host, Pauline Shangett, Chief Strategy Officer from ChangeNOW, and my dear guest, Albert Quehenberger, CEO and Head of Investigations at a blockchain security firm called AQ Forensics. Thank you so much for joining us here, Albert.
Thank you very much for the invitation.